Welcome to the Kauffman FastTrac author series. I am Jordan Marcello, and I am joined today by Dorie Clark. Thank you again for joining us, Dorie.
Thank you very much.
Throughout the series so far, we've talked about finding your breakthrough idea, and then we've talked about breaking through the noise and getting your idea out there and heard. But a topic we keep touching on is the idea of becoming a thought leader. But very similar to what we talked about in breaking through the noise, it seems like everyone today is a thought leader. But in your book, you mentioned the fact that the world needs you to be a thought leader. So could you talk a little bit about your reasoning behind that and why you believe it's no longer optional to not be a thought leader?
Yeah, thank you. So these days, we all have experienced the crush of information. I mean, I think most professionals are getting 100 or more emails a day. We're being bombarded with Facebook messages and tweets. We have a lot coming at us. And as a result of that, it is getting harder and harder to stand out. But conversely, what that means is that it's more and more important to stand out. We live in a competitive global economy, and you're always these days going to find people who are willing to do the job for less money than you. It started out, at the lowest margin businesses, but now even for professionals, you have web design work, you have graphic design work, you have radiology that, thanks to the internet, can be done abroad for a lot less money. You have to give people a real reason to want to do business with you specifically. And becoming a thought leader, I think sometimes people think, oh, that's such a lofty term. There's only a handful of thought leaders, in the professional world. But, so I can't possibly be that. That's for special people. That's for different people. But what I would really like to argue is that all of us can be a thought leader in our own community, in our own realm. This is not about becoming the world expert in something, although that's great if you want to and are able to do that. But becoming a thought leader as somebody who is known, for instance, as the best web designer in your city for X type of businesses. That's a type of thought leadership. And getting known for a real level of deep expertise is very powerful, because that is what is going to insulate you from economic pressures and the economic forces that are buffeting everybody else. It's a form of career insurance for you and for your business, but it's also really powerful because we all, by dint of who we are, our unique experiences, we have something to contribute. And as a result, we just see the world differently than other people. And there's a contribution there to make. I would argue that to a certain extent, there's an obligation to share how we see the world and to solve the problems that we uniquely are equipped to do.
What happens when you finally get there? You achieve that thought leader reputation. People look to you for advice or thoughts in a specific industry or a specific topic. How should an entrepreneur go about protecting that reputation?
The bottom line here, the most important thing, is that if you want to play good defense, to make sure that if something negative happens, that it's not the only thing that's out there about you on the internet, or also, if unfortunately something bad has happened and you need to repair an online reputation, there's really just one antidote for it. It's pretty simple, actually, and that is that you have to create a lot of positive, proactive content so that it drowns out the negative messages. The internet is vast, and you're never going to expunge all the traces of something negative that's happened online. Let's say there's an irate customer, or there's some incident that's happened. It's never going to go away 100%. But what you can do is make it less and less relevant. What you really want to make sure is that you are controlling the narrative that's appearing on page 1 or page 2 or page 3 of your Google search results. If you have something negative that's on page 57, well, if you're applying for security clearance with the CIA, sure, they'll discover it, but most people are not going to bother looking there. Mm-hmm. And so creating original, thoughtful content related to your area of expertise. This could be blogging, it could be having a Twitter account, a LinkedIn account, whatever. Those are the things that are going to be ranked very highly, and that's what's going to show up on the first few pages of your bio when people are searching for your name. And as a result, that will be shaping their perceptions of you.
Do you believe that there's a time where you should recognize the negative, and could you take that negative and then spin it to a positive?
Well, it depends how central it is to your brand and to your experiences. I actually just was reached out to by a guy named Richard B. Strong, who is really interesting. I hadn't heard of him or knew of him before, but he had actually read a couple of my books, Reinventing You and Stand Out, and wanted to contact me because he said that my books had been really helpful to him in figuring out how to craft and take control of his reputation. And part of it was that he had actually been imprisoned for a white collar crime, and he decided that he would own it on his LinkedIn profile. And he just puts it out there. He leads with it, and he talks now about what he learned from that and about how he has turned himself around so that he's now actually advising and consulting on similar issues based on his own personal experience with this. And I thought that was incredibly bold and brassy and admirable, because there are a lot of people who run away from things. If something is kind of a minor distraction. I mean, if you have, let's say, you own a restaurant and you have one customer that gets angry because her hamburger is cold or something like that. I mean, that's a silly thing. And, that's the kind of thing, all right, it's a one-time thing, push it down. But if you have something that actually really is huge, that really is central, that has become foundational to your experience, such as somebody who maybe has been sent to prison, trying to push that aside, that piece of a narrative, you have this gap in your resume or what have you, that begins to look like, well, what are you hiding? What are you not talking about? It makes it a big thing. But if you are brave enough to claim that part of your narrative and actually own it and say, you know what, this actually makes me a better person. This makes me a better, entrepreneur, or it makes me a better professional because I've learned these things firsthand, and here is what I learned. Then that can actually be a very powerful message.
Can you give me some opinions and thoughts about intentionally trying to make your ideas go viral? Is that something that you can do, or does it just happen organically?
Well, I think that when it comes to your ideas going viral, you know, you do have to apply strategy to it. I mean, for instance, if you want your audience members talking to each other, it is absolutely helpful to give them venues in which they can talk to each other, or to help encourage that in some way. So Eric Ries, the author of The Lean Startup, the Lean Startup now has become, of course, a huge global phenomenon. There are 750,000 people worldwide in 81 countries that are participating in Lean Startup meetup groups. And the numbers are just growing exponentially. It's probably even more than that now. One of the things that Eric Ries has done that enables that to be successful is he will periodically Skype in for meetings, especially with new meetup groups, to encourage them and get them motivated and on board. He has an annual conference that many people go to. So he's providing infrastructure that helps the message spread. So there's ways you can grease the wheels with that. But fundamentally, when it comes to having an idea that goes viral, what is necessary from the beginning is that certain types of ideas are more likely to go viral than others. And the crucial distinction is, how helpful is the idea to other people? If the idea from the beginning is a fairly self-focused idea, oh, I have this idea, I have this dream, help me accomplish it. Well, that's nice, but that's not highly motivational for other people unless they're your best friend or your mom. What gets ideas to spread is their utility to other people, some quality that where they say, oh, this speaks to me, this is helpful to me. And if it is, they will want to speak about it. Very few people want to, talk about advertisements, because most advertisements are boring.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's something that is really useful, like, Lean Startup, I mean, the goal of that is, how do you make it less likely that your startup's going to fail? That's something that a lot of people want to know.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to talk about it. Lean In is another great example. Sheryl Sandberg very easily could have written a book that was just, her, memoir about, hey, I'm a really powerful woman executive. Aren't I great? And, that would have been nice. And some people would have read it because she's an interesting figure. But it wouldn't have gone viral in the same way that Lean In did, because she started with a memoir, but she also made it about more than just that. She made it about women in general and the importance of women in general stepping up and raising their hand and becoming more empowered in the workplace. And a lot of women looked at that and said, oh, I see myself in that. That's interesting. Let's talk about it. And that is what enables a message to really spread.
Could you expound upon, kind of the idea around making a living from your ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the key things when it comes to thought leadership of any kind is that it has to be sustainable over the long term. I mean, one of the real challenges is that these days it would be very easy to actually become a thought leader, create content all the time, but never make any money. Because if you're not strategic, I mean, lots of places will publish free blog posts, and you could be doing that all the time and still be starving. So as entrepreneurs, we need to make money. So we have to put on that lens and think about how we can do that in a way that adds value for us and adds value for other people. So in Standout, I actually lay out a variety of different possibilities, ways that people have done this. I think one of the key things is that for most people, for most entrepreneurs in this realm, there's multiple streams of income. So, sometimes people get lucky and you can be a thought leader and, maybe someone will just pay you to do that. That'll be your job, if you're a college professor, say, or something like that. I mean, you're teaching, but, you have the opportunity very much as part of what one is doing to be able to get paid for your ideas. But for most of us who are entrepreneurs, it doesn't work like that. We have to find ways to piece it together. And so for me, for instance, I make money as a result of a combination of writing books, of teaching business school, of giving lectures, of doing consulting work, of doing executive coaching. I'm beginning to do some online courses, all of that. So that's right there. It's 6 income streams. And working on all of them, it's actually a kind of powerful diversification strategy, because that way you're really protected against the swings that you can have in entrepreneurial income. So I think that starting to be savvy about that and thinking about different ways that you can make money from your ideas is an important step for entrepreneurs.
Dorie, this is going to conclude our 3rd segment in this series, and this one particularly being about cultivating your reputation. I want to thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being part of the Kauffman FastTrac author series.
Thank you, Jordan. I'll also just mention briefly for folks who are participating that if you're interested in developing your own breakthrough ideas, on my website, dorieclark.com, which is DORIECLARK.com, I actually have a free 42-page workbook that I created based on Standout that walks you through the process of developing your own ideas and building a following around them. So if folks would like to download that for free, they can do so at dorieclark.com.
That's absolutely wonderful, Dorie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.